What is up, guys? Bloodburger here, 9/14/2012. Today we are talking Diablo 3 1.0.5, the next patch from Blizzard. Basically, what they're going to be looking at is defensive skills versus monster damage. We've got a lot to talk about in this little video, so let's get started. First and foremost, they're going to be changing a few defensive skills for each class, including nerfs to energy armor for wizards and Warcry with impunity rune for barbarians. Their goal is to lower the effectiveness of said skills, lower monster damage by more than the mitigation that those skills offer so that it feels like an overall buff, and make damage lower overall in order to make certain runes feel less mandatory. There's actually an amazing chart here that shows the usage of Warcry by all barbarians across all of BattleNet. Impunity rune is actually way ahead at 87%, with the next closest rune being Invigorate at about 8%. They want to nerf monster damage enough so that your defensive skills will feel like a buff in the end, like I said before. Wizard energy armor is being reduced from 65% base armor to about 35%, and the resistance buff on prismatic armor, is being reduced from 40% to 25%. So let's just do a little example here. If a wizard has about 6,000 armor and 800 resist all before they actually use energy armor, in 1.04, this would translate to having about 9,900 armor and 1,120 resist, or about 94% damage mitigation overall. In 1.05, the same wizard would have about 8,100 armor, 1,000 resist, and about 93% mitigation overall. So going even further, with the patch, a monster hit of about 50,000 would be mitigated down to about 2650 in 1.04. In 1.05, that same hit would be about 3355, which means they would need to nerf incoming monster damage by at least 21% to make sure that the change is a buff rather than a nerf. In the case of barbarians, Warcry with impunity is being nerfed from 50% resist all to 20%. And what that means, barbarian with about 800 resist all before applying Warcry in 1.04 would be looking at about 1200 resist all, or about 80% damage mitigation. In 1.05, the exact same barbarian would be looking at about 960 resist all, or 75% mitigation. Just to give you another monster hit example, incoming damage of about 20,000 would be mitigated down to 4158 in 1.04, or about 4942 in 1.05, which means that the monster damage for that barbarian would need to be nerfed by at least 16% to make up for the skill nerf. They plan to reduce all incoming damage by at least 25%, which by these two examples appears that Wizard would actually see a buff of about 4% in damage mitigation if they were to take that same skill with prismatic armor, and Barbarians would actually see an increase of about 9%. So in this case, a nerf for a nerf equals a buff, so no need to panic. Plus, we may be able to actually look into other defensive options. Now let's go class by class and just talk a little bit about each change that they're going to be making to the defensive skills per class. Barbarian, like we said before, Warcry with the impunity rune, the resistances on it are going to be reduced from 50% to 20%. Leap with Iron Impact is going from a flat 300% armor for 4 seconds to 100% armor per target hit for 3 seconds, which actually sounds kind of cool. If you jump into a pack of mobs and you hit 5 of them, that's 500 armor for 3 seconds. If you farmed Act 3 before, you know how thick those monster packs can get. Leaping into a pack of 10-20 mobs could probably make you invincible for about 3 seconds. So that's just an extra option. Instead of taking the Warcry with impunity, you might want to reach into Leap with Iron Impact. For Demon Hunters, they're going to be changing Shadow Power from 20% lifesteal for 3 seconds to 15% lifesteal for 5 seconds. Gloom 35% damage reduction for 5 seconds. Blizzard is also looking into play mechanics in an attempt to promote new and different Demon Hunter playstyles due to lack of defensive options. They're adjusting runes and passives to increase survivability and make them scale with life, armor, and resistances. Changing the companions to be actual pets that can tank for Demon Hunter, which is kind of cool. Cooldowns on Sentry will allow you to use 2 at a time now instead of 1. You can also take the custom engineering passive that'll allow you for 3, or to use 3 rather, for a nest style gameplay element where you can kind of lure enemies back into your trap of sentries. For Monk, they have plans to change one with everything in the future, nothing in 1.0.5 however. Resolve is getting a damage reduction nerf of from 25% to 20%. Seize the Initiative now grants 50% of dex to armor. Witch Doctor, Jungle Fortitude is reduced from 20% to 15%. And like we had spoke about before, Wizard Energy Armor granted is reduced from 65% to 35%. With the Prismatic Armor rune, resistances will be reduced from 40% to 25%. They're also adding a flat melee damage reduction to Ice Armor and offering a familiar that provides passive life regen. Overall, defensive skills getting nerfed across the board. Incoming monster damage nerfed as well. Inferno is getting even easier, people. Their reasoning: make the game more accessible for casuals and promote build diversity to the hardcore. So take that as you will. 1.05 around the corner, 1.0.5 around the corner. I'm Bloodburger with the D3 News Express once again. Thank you guys for watching, and see you soon.